What is up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Scruffy Nerf Herders. I'm your main man, Boogie Bills, and I'm here with Melgar Media.
Hello, hello.
And we're here to talk about Kenobi Episode 5. My main man, Melgar, how did you feel about this episode? Let's start with the likes, and then let's get into maybe some things that maybe we think could be better done. Let's get rolling, baby.
I mean, we can knock out. I mean, for me, best episode of the series yet.
Yeah, I can get with you on that.
I feel like it could have come a little bit sooner, but then again, that's just my selfishness of wanting good Star Wars all the time. I thought that Vader in this episode is obviously a massive highlight. It is the Vader that we all enjoy, the Vader that we saw a little bit of in Rogue One. Excuse me.
Oh, yeah.
And just seeing his Force abilities in this and some of the flashbacks were definitely a highlight. I think some of the action scenes, the choreography of the training scenes was really good. And yeah, I mean, I gave this one a solid 9 for the series itself. Out of all of Star Wars shows, probably a solid 8. Yeah, because I did enjoy obviously Luke Skywalker in Mandalorian, but
yeah, huge fan of that Luke and in the Mando. You know, yeah, I was really excited to watch this episode. I felt like this was a crucial episode for them, like kind of almost a make or break one. You know, you've done your kind of a little bit of a pre-story, and then you've got your filler episode. You know, they've been doing a good job of filling in some back story on some of these these great lore things that happened in the past, especially in the original trilogy and in the prequels. You know, so for me, it was really enjoyable to see this one kind of come through. You know, I really enjoyed watching O'Shea Jackson again come through as Roken. Dude, I love that character. Really kind of a grizzled, kind of a no-nonsense character, and just the way that he plays it is fun. Really dug that. Leia, obviously, again, coming through in the clutch. The homegirl just has it, bro. She's got that force, you know, for sure.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see if he tells Leia, next time you want to contact me, to keep it out of the ears and eyes of the Empire, use the code word, "You helped my father in the Clone Wars," as a call sign.
Yeah.
And that will make it make it canon and not broken canon.
Yeah.
Unless she gets her mind wiped, you know. But I'm thinking that he's going to say to her, you know, at the tail end, like, if you ever need to get a hold of me, and you're going, you know,
yeah,
on a hologram, that use this verbiage, and that will, I'll know it's you, and then I'll know it's you, and not, you know, Imperial, you know,
if you call my
decoded
name,
stuff. Yeah,
I'll be there.
I'm curious to see how that pans out.
Yeah.
I do really still like her actress that's playing her. I think she's killing it. And I really liked the opening sequence, obviously, of seeing Coruscant again and seeing the little man ponytail that Hayden had back in the day.
Yeah,
that definitely brings back the feels. I think that in the big scheme of things, the prequels are extremely underrated, and I think they're getting a lot more love now, and people are going to go back. And with these connecting episodes, I think they're going to get a lot more respect. The training sequences, like I said, I really liked. But, I mean, they could have used a little bit work on the actual...
I think that brings up a great point. You know, when we start off and you start to see those scenes with Hayden in the Jedi Temple, they were using lighting and things like that. You don't necessarily see his face as much as in that bright Jedi, you know, training area and stuff. So there were some glaring differences. You know, the first one was very ominous and dark, but you couldn't notice some of the faults that we could see later on in that other one, especially in that de-aging principle. You know, I would definitely point that out. You know, but I still love that scene. Like, I'm like, especially when he's, you know, running through Coruscant and the younglings and stuff. It's like, terrible as it is to say, to see that, like, more of that story told, it's great. And the way that his face is framed in that, cinematography wise, that I love that. You know, it's a great use of shadows to get away from the things that could get you in trouble, so to speak. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's definitely pretty dark. I think going back through it though, I was like going through the frames. I didn't notice if they had added the scar
Yeah.
that he had on his face
Yeah.
in the Sith, and it wasn't as dark like around the eyes because they were kind of sunk in, you know, when he
Yeah.
went into the temple. But I mean, I think that everyone is any Star Wars fan has been kind of waiting for more in-depth content of
Any
what
little
happened in the
tidbit, right?
temple, you know.
Yeah.
So obviously, anything that they go back and do to give us more visual, so then when you're watching Revenge of the Sith later, you're like you can piece it all together.
Yeah.
I think is really cool, and I'm curious to see how deep they go, because eventually we're gonna get the scene where Grogu gets rescued and we find out who, or rescued, or just taken and hidden. We'll
Yeah.
find out who that was, you know?
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm excited to see that. I mean, there's so many crumbs that lead up to these tasty rewards that as Star Wars fans we've been waiting for forever. I mean, I think the reason why Grogu, in my opinion, was so well received is we have such a small amount of information on their species, right? You know, so it's like when we see these little tidbits, these little crumbs, and as they get filled in to build up to a little bit more and a little bit more in the lore, that's what keeps bringing us back for more and more. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
Vader in this, for me, you know, especially in that end scene, I know that we were talking about this before. You mentioned, I mean, just Force Unleashed Vader. And you're so spot on with that.
100%.
I mean, he just stops that ship, drops that ship, and just crushes it open. You know, I mean, we haven't seen force powers used in that manner in this, like, unless it's really been in the cartoon landscape. So to see this like this, you know, I mean, we've seen a little bit in the sequels, but it was interesting. You know, it was more like a battle.
Not
This
as
was
vicious,
pure
yeah.
domination by a Sith Lord right then and there, you know, and it was awesome to see. Like, I was dope, you know. But was he
Yeah, it was
outsmarted? You know, of course
It was
he was.
very like game from the games-esque, you know. It's like you got to be on your joystick, like hitting the button to get that power up to do those type of moves. And to see it in live action, I mean,
He's getting crazy.
blew the doors off, literally, you know, like the way he like pulls that down. I think that everybody that enjoyed Force Unleashed and things like that were like, man, if that happened in canon, if someone like Starkiller grabbed a Star Destroyer and just like brought it down like that, like, and then to see Vader do it, and then I like there was a ship behind the ship that took off, you know, like,
I mean, classic Kenobi there, right? Like,
yeah,
he knows his opponent so well. And I mean, I guess that's the beauty of that was a great Star Wars scene, right? You have that whole, you know, you have two separate battles going down at once, but they come together to make that beautiful story happen, you know? And that's, you know, Obi-Wan yet again teaching his apprentice, you know? And like, hopefully from this one, Darth Vader will probably learn from this one, right? And like, we know he does. Like, he's definitely a lot more like, okay, cool, let's just blow this up. And then I'll go in and like pick through the rubble, you know? And we see that a lot more like in the later on comics from Marvel that they're putting up for sure, is that he just is, you know, an overall bomb that goes through and just takes out anything in his path. Kenobi already knows that, and really does a good job on that feint. I mean, that was a great scene. Really enjoyed that.
Yeah, it was. You see some new skills and things in there, like when he knocks out Obi-Wan's saber, and he's like, "You don't have your weapon anymore."
Yeah,
and then he teaches them that lesson of like, you don't really need a weapon to defeat your enemy.
Yeah,
and he says that, you know, and it definitely starts adding more depth to that line of last time we met, I was but the learner.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
is this the lesson? I
Well,
feel
yeah.
like they're gonna fight again in the next episode. Some
Yeah.
people think that might have been it, and we're not going to see a rematch. But I still think, like we talked about, how Obi-Wan still hasn't hit 100% rock bottom.
Yeah.
Like he's there, he's in the depths. But I think that Qui-Gon will eventually be the
Well, I
driving
think Tala was
force.
a big part of that, right? Like her going down in that part, like losing the droid, doing the thermal detonator, and a lot of that was mirroring, some of the self-sacrifice we've seen in some of the other films and other comics, especially, and the some of the animated shorts and stuff. And that sacrifice, I think, will help to push him a little bit for sure.
Yeah.
Like
And
I love that part.
I'm just thinking that they're really going to make it obvious black and white to where, because the writer came out recently after some of the backlash of the pacing of the show and how some things are missing the mark, and the writer said, "Don't worry, it will all be revealed in the next 2 episodes." So some people are thinking that they're not going to go. It's just very literal into connecting that line. In my head, I definitely think that they're going to leave it whereas Obi-Wan and him are fighting, and Obi-Wan definitely gets the best of him with a little help from Qui-Gon's words inside of his head. He finally connects with him,
Yeah.
So
That would
I
be
am
beautiful.
definitely excited to see that.
That would
But
just be a
just
beautiful
seeing
poetic.
Obi-Wan and Hayden, or just seeing Ewan and Hayden on the same stage during this show is just, it's so nice.
It brings out all the feels, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm enjoying that aspect of it. It's definitely hitting some of the aspects that I've been enjoying. I think we pointed out some of those too. But as we were talking about before, I think there's some things that are definitely missing the mark. I think this show is overall hitting really well, right? We talked about some of those things. It's still hitting really high for me, but I think kind of the thing that definitely me and you were talking about earlier is the potential for this and how high it could have hit. I think was far beyond where we're actually seeing Kenobi hit. And I think we hit on one of those subjects, the de-aging for me, especially in that light room. I know you talked about this earlier. It just didn't work for me. And in my eyes, if that's the crux of your storytelling, you either make it work or you figure out another way around it. Maybe have them be in an inner training chamber in the Jedi Temple, because we know that happened. They don't have to be outside in the bright lights, right? They can be inside in kind of a darker room, or maybe get rid of the lights midway through. Anakin could have done that through the Force, and that could have even shown how much closer he was to the dark side at that point. There's just storytelling things, in my opinion, that aren't being hit in some instances in deference for quickness of the story being told. Maybe. I don't even know, but how do you feel about that?
I think you hit the mark on to start off with the de-aging part. Just comparing to studios and the way some shows are being produced at not the same cost and accessibility to, Lucasfilm's production, like Stranger Things we're talking about.
Yeah.
They can pump out something that is written ridiculously well. Their special effects and things are amazing. And then we see this de-aging where you could have simply put this video on Instagram and swiped left one time or right one time and de-aged it. Like there's a filter that simply does that.
Yeah.
But yet you've got,
We have the
Lightroom.
technology.
Yeah, you have these amazing specialists with the most expensive
Yeah.
special effects team,
Yeah, man.
and they couldn't do something as simple as that. And then, I get
Even in
it
the
that
same
they,
house too, right? Because we've seen in Ant-Man they did it, right? And that was cleaner.
amazing.
And
Yeah,
Ant-Man
Michael
wasn't
Douglas,
the
yeah.
tent pole production, remember? Like that was
Yeah.
more of a, that was like the Deadpool. You know what I mean? Like it's not they like they ain't getting all the money. Is what I'm trying to say.
Michael Douglas and Michelle Pfeiffer, they did great with them.
It looked great, man. So I'm like, that's kind of where my confusion is, and like, I saw going into this, I was like, man, Hayden looks old, like. And Ewan looks older too, but I don't think quite as noticeable. Maybe it's because we've seen him so much in the limelight since the prequels, especially. Like it's and he's come back a couple of times. He's been in bigger movies, so we've watched him age. Hayden's been a little bit more on the sidelines. So it's great to have him back, but it's like do him justice.
Yeah.
This character deserves to be ripened and developed in the way that we're looking forward to, and I think there's some aspects that they're missing on that. And I think you also talked about on the deck of the Star Destroyer as well too. I'll let you take it from there.
I mean, we've seen some better effects even in Clone Wars and Rebels.
Yeah.
The warp speed, the lighting on the deck, it's just kind of like, why it's so lazy. I just
at that
don't
point
get.
You might as well just go plaid.
Yeah, just go plaid, straight up, plaid, Spaceball status. Yeah, I just feel that there's some missed opportunities, and I don't understand when they go into a storyboard and they're like, yeah, this is the direction we want to go. Let's drag this part out. Just some of the deaths that we've seen done over and over again, sacrifices, kind of are like you got to speed it up and make it more dramatic.
Got to speed
if it's going to